This is a live Channels Television event.
There were, as it were, two parallel systems of revenue and expenditure. One which was the budget appropriated properly, and another which was essentially the NMPC, just as an example. And so you would find situations where what the NMPC was spending in many cases was not even necessarily reflected in the overall size of the budget. And that, of course, gave rise to huge distortions. So it was possible for if you like, those who manage the economy not to quite understand what was going on the one hand and to only understand what was going on the other hand, which is what gave rise to the TSA policy. Now, under this policy, all government revenues must come as government receipts to the central bank now, and then after that, of course, any agency that would be spending money would do so properly appropriated. It will be after proper appropriation. The budget, it will be based on the budget, the same budget that's approved for everyone. They would, of course, have their own budget items, different from everyone else, but every expenditure must be based on a budget duly presented to the National Assembly and properly appropriated. So that's essentially is the TSA policy. And of course, we have the IPIS, which is the electronic platform for payment of revenues, for payment of salaries of public servants. Now, IPIS is very important because it's one of the main ways of checking the so-called ghost worker. And now we have, obviously, a situation where we're able to discover very quickly precisely how many public servants there are. And now that directives have been given to the military and other institutions that were not part of IPIS to go onto that electronic platform, excuse me, we're likely to become more certain of the number of public servants there are and exactly how much is spent on remuneration of public servants. The first phase of IPIS saved considerable sums of money, and we expect that this next phase will do more or less the same. Then there's GIFMIX, which is the Government Integrated Financial Information Management System. Now, this is essentially a system that tries to match expenditure to budget. It's a computerized system that tries to match revenues, expenditure, and budget in such a way that the Accountant General and other financial managers are able to see very quickly what exactly is coming in, what is going out, and what is being spent as per the budget, and what is still available. So the GIFMIX is obviously one that enables fiscal transparency, and that is one of its main objectives. So those are some of the issues regarding fiscal discipline and efficiency of collection, revenue diversification. Of course, we've had, everyone talks now about what we need to do about taxation, especially collection of taxes, because we absolutely need to increase our revenue base, and of course that involves ensuring that the tax authorities are more efficient. And it's our projection that without adding any extra taxes, if revenue collection is more efficient, we can actually do much more in terms of revenues than we're doing currently. With the new taxman, Mr. Fowler, who comes from Lagos, and the work that he might to do in Lagos, we're expecting that some of those wonders might be repeated at the federal level as well. That's generally, those are some of the fiscal reform issues that we are undertaking. Then the other point which I'd like to make as part of the institutional reform process is ensuring that the budget is policy driven. This is a very important issue for us because time and time again, you find that we have a budget. It's named budget of something or the other, but you can't really identify what policy drives it. The main disadvantage of that, of course, is that there are no champions for the budget. There is really no soul, as it were, to the budget, and there is no one who is actually championing it. And that's why we've insisted that we must have a policy-driven budget, and we've had, in the past few weeks, the Budget Office as well as the National Planning Commission working together, first of all, to draw up the medium-term plan, and then also to define broadly what the policies that will drive the budget are. Of course, the policies depend a great deal on the manifesto of the party, because the manifesto of the party for us is the main policy direction, or defines the policy direction for the government, and that will be reflected in the budget. As I said yesterday, one of the key issues for us is that we are doing as much as possible a bottom-up type of reasoning for our economic planning. In other words, we are taking into account the large number of extremely poor people as a basis for reasoning through the whole economic planning process. And so for us, it's more a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach. And that has been reflected in the policy and will be reflected in the budget as well. So for now, we have managed to integrate, in terms of working together for presentation of these policy papers, the National Planning Commission and the Budget Office of the Federation. And both agencies have been working seamlessly to produce these documents, which will be important in the economic planning and the work of the government in the next few months. Then, of course, there's also policy coordination between the states and the federal government. Of course, Nigeria's economy is made up of the aggregate of the economies of the states and the federal government. In fact, the states, perhaps more importantly, because it's the states that actually have the territory, have the people, and conduct a lot of both economic and social services. So in terms of working together, that's a very important policy platform for us. And NEC, that's the National Economic Council, which I have the privilege to chair, is the coordinating organ of that cooperation. So we find that at the NEC meetings, we're able to take on important policy issues. For example, we've looked at power, we've looked at agriculture, and we're looking at other areas of the economy where there will be a requirement of the states working together with the federal government. And that's very, very important, because you find sometimes that even just in terms of finding where there's a federal government policy or where there's a policy that should affect all, you find sometimes that because of the absence of a proper coordinating platform that meets regularly, the subnational is going in one direction, federal government is going in another direction. So that creates, of course, great difficulties in terms of implementing economic plans. And of course, that is not helped by the fact that there are different political parties and that sometimes their views may not be at one. But fortunately, we've managed to work together. And part of the reason why we've managed to work together is because we have adopted a policy of complete transparency in terms of what the federal government earns and what the federation account gets. Now, that's always been a point of dispute between the states and the federal government. The federation account has always been a contested issue. Most of the states want to know what is earned in the federation account. And of course, there's been a great deal of mystery about what goes in the federation account and what doesn't go into the federation account. But what the directive of the president at the very first meeting of NEC to me and to all of those working with us is that we must open the books, as it were, so that everyone has complete access to what it is that's coming into the federation account and what is going out. And we all have to take a decision about when to spend from the Federation account. As you know, the Federation account is the account that belongs to the federal government, states, and local government. And it's from that the states and federal government, as well as local government, get their monthly allocations. So we've managed to create a platform where the states and the federal government can cooperate effectively. The recent bailout program, and I use the word bailout advisedly, of course, because there are aspects of it that are not bailout, as I tried to explain yesterday, is an example of the functionality of this arrangement and the functionality of that cooperation between the federal government and the states. But one of the key issues that arose in that particular program was how to ascertain the debts of the states, how to actually ascertain the debts of the states. Now, several of the states, fortunately, have also set up their own debt management offices. So we have the Central Debt Management Office, which is the federal office, and the states also set up their own debt management offices. Many of them have just set theirs up, but most had set theirs up before. But this was a particularly useful thing because the Federal Debt Management Office was then able to cooperate with the debt management offices in the states as the first level of ascertaining the actual debt that the states owed to commercial banks and to contractors. So this, so the platform of NEC, I think, has worked quite well.